Hello, and thanks for watching another episode of ARFCOM News, your twice-weekly dose of the finest 2A propaganda. If there's one thing politicians are good at, it's reminding us they think they are our betters. It's typical for them to exempt themselves from almost any law that applies to proles like you and me, especially when it comes to gun control.
Some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I am willing to make.
But that exemption is usually part of a new law. This time, Republicans in New Jersey are trying to exempt themselves from the state's existing draconian restrictions. If Assembly Bill 5958 were to pass, elected officials would be able to carry and possess guns just like normal American citizens without any government permission slip.
I have a permit. This just says I can do what I want.
They would be allowed to buy guns, which are illegal for regular people in New Jersey, and they'll even be allowed to carry without a permit and into places that would normally be off limits for, that one guy in New Jersey who has a carry permit because his wife's uncle works for the state police. Now, I don't know about you, but I think equal protection under the law is important enough. It's in the Constitution twice.
How many times do I have to say it, people?
Politicians aren't rulers. They are public servants, and they shouldn't play by a different set of rules than the plebes. I mean, there is little that we can do about the fact that the elites will always treat us differently than they do their own, but that class divide should not be codified into law. And here's a hot take. Politicians should be afraid of the people. So if you agree, call 609-847-3905 right now and tell a few of their fine barrel-aged politicrators they are no better than the rest of us. And if you don't want to call just because you don't live in New Jersey, may I remind you, control freaks everywhere look to New Jersey for ideas.
Blind leading the stupid.
But it would be impossible for us to produce quality 2A propaganda without sponsors. So let's pay some bills. Today's video is sponsored by Springfield Armory.
Imagine a 9mm carbine with roller delay action just like Kraut Space Magic. Now imagine it didn't have garbage ergonomics. The brand new Kuna from Springfield Armory gives you that roller delayed smooth recoil you're looking for with reversible, non-reciprocating charging handle and MB absolutely everything.
Michael Bloomberg's propaganda machine is called The Trace, and while its sole purpose is to promote authoritarian policies to violate your gun rights, their reporting is actually pretty decent. They tend to be substantially more accurate than the legacy media, and they're not afraid to report on trends that don't really support their cause, even if they do desperately attempt to spin those numbers.
Hey, don't look at that, white boy. That's my math, not your math.
For example, The Trace recently reported homicides are dramatically down for the past several years, while taking the emergency exit continues to rise. The part they don't get around to mentioning, though, is this trend completely demolishes the Pearl clutching blood in the streets predictions that followed the Bruen decision. We were assured when the Supreme Court ruled that virtually all gun laws are unconstitutional, that would unleash a bloody wave of violence unlike anything we've seen on the face of the earth. The streets would run red with blood as Karens across the country got head canoed over parking spots and fast food errors.
Streets will run red with blood.
But that didn't happen, did it? Now, it would be tempting to look at this graph and conclude that since the Bruen decision dropped about that time, that it actually caused a sharp decline in homicide, but there are a couple of problems with that hypothesis. First, we all know correlation does not mean causation. Sure, the sun comes up after the rooster crows, but that correlation doesn't suggest he causes the sun to rise. And the homicide rate started dropping before the Bruen decision was published. Besides, it takes some time for policy changes to go into effect, and some states are still dragging their heels. And then there is some lag after a policy takes effect before we start seeing the result in crime statistics. Besides, that drop came after a sharp increase in homicide, which correlated with another event, which was a lot more impactful.
That's it, man. Game over.
So what we're really seeing is a correction back to normal after the summer of love and mostly peaceful riots. But the important takeaway is the Bruen decision did not cause a wave of bloody violence. Last week, I told you about how Californistan AG Rob Bonta announced he will continue to enforce the state's unconstitutional background check law even after it was found unconstitutional by a federal court, and he intends to continue enforcing it until he is compelled to stop.
You're gonna die for some chickens.
Someone is.
But in the short time between when that ruling dropped and when the Tin Pot Despot made his announcement, it seems a lot of people might have had a chance to go order ammo online. A sort of Freedom Week light, if you will. There's no way to know how many people received their ammo orders, but there are at least anecdotal reports of people receiving ammo before out-of-state retailers stopped shipping to Californistan again.
The first transport is away.
Okay, so right up front, I'm gonna say 6th Circuit Court of Appeals exactly one time in this video because I'm an idiot and that's hard to say. Instead, I'll just say court and you'll know what I mean. Not to bury the lead, but the court just ruled machine guns are not protected by the Second Amendment, and I have a huge problem with that. Jaquan Bridges got caught with a glizzy with a switch, and if you think that makes him a somewhat unsympathetic defendant, well...
Wait till I get going! Where was I?
So the reason Jaquan got caught is, well, he was just driving around, minding his own business, doom scrolling on his phone when a cop flashed his lights in the hope of reminding Jaquan to put his phone down. Well, Jaquan did put his phone down, and he picked up the glizzy and hosed down the cop car with bullets. Then he took off and the 5-0 pursued, as is their custom. After about a 10-minute chase, Jaquan crashed out and the cops found his Glock 23 in the car after they apprehended him. As I said before when I reported on this guy, a full auto sear on a handgun is pretty wild, but on a compact pistol and a snappy caliber like Fote is insane. What's also insane are the arguments the government used to get to this point. See, the Bruen two-step requires the state to prove its law is legal by pointing to a similar founding-era law. There were no categorical bans on types of firearms, but instead of pointing to a law that never existed, the state got distracted after admitting that machine guns are arms and fell back on that old dangerous and unusual phrase from the Heller decision. Then, to prove how unusual machine guns are, they counted only the ones on the NFA registry.
Well, isn't that convenient for you?
The same list they closed 4 decades ago, so you can't register new machine guns. Let me put that another way. They used the scarcity that they created to prove how scarce something is. And bizarrely, the court agreed. Now, let's be honest. The state's reasoning doesn't hold. The court reached this ruling not because it is legal or rational, but because they are afraid of legalizing machine guns. What do you guys think? Now, before I give you that moment of zen that I know you skipped ahead for, it's okay, I still love you, I have to do that thing gun tubers do and remind you the tube of yous actively hates you and your rights. They have never been friendly, but they continue to grow more and more malignant every single day. Recently, they even age restricted one of our videos. And when they do that, you won't see it at all, let alone in your notifications, unless you are logged in on an age-verified account. And of course, they continue to unsubscribe viewers from wrongthink like this. So be sure to leave a comment, then mill out the like buttons lower and drill the 3rd hole on that subscribe button, you know, if you think we earned it. And now, for your moment of zen. Hello, friend. Do you like pews and pew-related things? Would you like to help us keep delivering you pure American pew propaganda at the low, low price of free? We literally couldn't pay the bills without our sponsors, so do us a solid and get yourself something nice from them. You deserve it. I love you.